I'm Cherilyn Widell. I recycle old buildings and communities, and I live in Chestertown. I was working as a circuit rider, helping all the historic district commissions in the state of Maryland in the 1980s. And I lived in Frederick at the time. But one of the communities that I helped and commissions I helped was Chestertown. And I said, someday I'm going to come back and live in that town because it's so beautiful. And in fact, when I lived in California and would visit my parents up in South Jersey, I would regularly come here and take a look at the community and say, it's still intact. They're still doing a great job, and I want to come here. So at the time when I returned back from the West Coast, Chestertown was first on my list to come and live. And so in some ways, living here is, in fact, a dream come true for me. It still has a very strong sense of community. And I don't say that in a way that is kind of hackneyed today. I think people talk about community and the importance of community. I realized that very early on, that the community sense of responsibility to one another, concern for one another, is very intact here. Concern for this place. Most people in this community are not primarily motivated, in my personal opinion, by making huge amounts of money, but by taking care of one another and being part of a place. We have lost that in most places in this country, and it's a devastating loss. We haven't here. I think it has a lot to do with the physical place and the beauty and the heritage. And I wanted to be part of that and be a responsible part of that. I think in the DNA of Americans, and it started in the late 19th century, we perceive that having a single family residence surrounded by a lawn is the goal of our lives. And if you read in The Geography of Nowhere, a book, it talks about Llewellyn Park as being one of the first places in the United States, it's in New Jersey, that was established as the mecca, if you will, of how to live well outside of a city. This is an old feeling in the United States, and we have basically gobbled up our farmland and our countryside for individuals imagining this ideal if in fact we are committed to freedom from paying for fossil fuels from other countries, for having communities that have true relationships, from having to depend on a car for everything we do, then we need to rethink that ideal of a single family residence surrounded by a lawn. And I think the next generation is finding that living in cities, in dense areas and condominiums is a very exciting life. I have a niece who's living in downtown Seattle. So I think it's the baby boomers who are most unlikely to view this lifestyle as something they want to walk toward. But most of my colleagues now are saying, I don't want to live in a house, big house anymore. I've got to come down. And they want to be in places where they can attend theater and have this European lifestyle of picking up cheese and good and all of that. Well, then you have to live in a place where there's enough density so that those who sell those wares can do it on a daily basis and receive a high enough income to accommodate our needs too. And that's not going to happen in the suburbs. So it's a choice that we're going to have to make based on this sustainable green lifestyle that we're all talking about. And sustainable and green, so far what we've done is it's so small, it's almost laughable. I mean, tin cans and telephone books and taking our little cloth bag to a supermarket. We're talking about recycling the whole purpose of towns and buildings and changing the way we work and live. A community like Chestertown should have Wi-Fi so that you are attracting individuals who want to just walk every day and not get in their car to drive to Wilmington or Philadelphia or wherever, DC, for work. And that's very, very possible. You know, a lot of folks are looking for places that have as much to offer as Chestertown, but they need that electronic cottage kind of connection in order to make that happen. And I'm not sure that we're fully aware of that. I could not be here doing what I'm doing nationwide, if not internationally, if I couldn't connect through computers. But I don't need to be in a car every day at all. And I do live in a condo in downtown Chestertown, and most people would say, well, why wouldn't you live in a single-family residence? Well, I travel, and I love just being able to turn the key and walk away. But I also love walking to a market to get what I need and seeing people I know every day. The role of downtown and how it relates to an increased population in downtown could be reworked in a way that would be beneficial for all, for those that have the shops and the restaurants and the services downtown, and for the residents here. We need more services, but we need more people to use those services. And we also have to be realistic. We can't go driving off to Dover. And I think once gas goes over $4 a gallon again, and it will, that we'll be looking at those things a little more carefully than we have. I love this place. So for me to say that there's an area that I think is downtrodden, I couldn't really say that, but I do see many, many buildings that could be renewed. And there is a need for housing. There is a need for jobs. There is a need for many of these things here in this community. And old buildings, reusing old buildings isn't the answer, but it is part of the answer for many, many of those things. And I think we need to look at it more carefully. We're smart. We got a lot of smart people in this community. I know we can figure it out.